Welcome to Beyond the Nebula, the home of the best Humans Are Special, HFY sci-fi stories on YouTube. Check the description below for the channel link, and hit subscribe to join our cosmic journey through the stars. The galaxy had many names for Earth. Some called it Sol 3, others the Blue Bastion, but the name whispered by the ancient empires, those who remembered humanity's volatile ascension, was far more ominous: the Quiet Forge. It wasn't meant as a compliment. Across the galactic network, Earth was seen as peculiar, a planet of contradictions, rich in history, barren of galactic ambition. Its people travelled among the stars but rarely meddled in interstellar politics. They traded technology but never flaunted it. They built colonies with the precision of artisans, but without the territorial hunger of the core worlds. And for nearly 200 years, humanity had kept its head down. Even as the galaxy fractured into coalitions and rival powers, Earth remained disturbingly silent. That silence was about to break. "Signal from the outer belt," the AI announced. Councillor Ulrich of the Thalvorn High Empire narrowed his crystalline eyes, mandibles twitching as the holographic glyphs materialized before him. "Origin?" he asked. "Sol system," the AI replied, "encoded in ancient Earth standard transmission protocols. Directed at us." Ulrich stood. "The humans haven't contacted the Empire in decades." He wasn't wrong. After the core Reformation Accords, Earth had officially withdrawn from galactic diplomacy. No seats on the Senate sphere, no trade commissions, no military pacts. They had, quite literally, gone dark. And now they were calling. The transmission wasn't long. It wasn't even a message by most standards. It was a set of coordinates. One ping, one vector, one point, deep beneath the crust of Luna, Earth's moon. It bore the old Terran signature, a stylized phoenix with binary wings. Ulrich's translator AI, puzzled, returned only 3 decipherable words from the encrypted data. "We remember everything." The council assembled within the Axis Vault, a chamber lined with quantum shielding and protected by 4 layers of antimatter nullification. Only the highest-ranking members of the Empire's ruling caste were allowed here. The message had shaken them, though none dared admit it. "Surely it's a bluff," hissed High Strategist Vex, his voice more toxin than tone. "Humans have no fleets, no beacon, and they gave up their dreadnoughts after the Solarian Treaty." "Perhaps," murmured Sularan, the archivist. "But do you recall the Dreadrise Protocol?" A collective chill spread across the room. The Dreadrise Protocol, a myth among most civilizations, but not to those who had lived through the end of the Orion Schism. It had been Earth's final act during the galactic collapse, a rumoured failsafe, one weapon, one ship, hidden, sleeping, a planet-sized construct embedded somewhere in the Sol system, deactivated, waiting. "Send the envoy." Ulrich said finally, "We will investigate the lunar anomaly directly, quietly. If the humans are playing a game, we'll end it before it begins." And so they did. The Imperial expedition departed within 12 hours, 3 warships disguised as mineral scouts, crewed by elite observers and led by Admiral Corla Van Tess, a veteran of the Venus incursions. What they found would rewrite the galaxy. It began with the excavation. Luna's crust was unusually thick near the South Pole, denser than it had any right to be. At first, the Thalvorn engineers assumed it was natural compression from Earth's gravitational tug. But then they struck alloy. Not just any alloy. Trinaric carbonium laced with isotopic physonium, a configuration that shouldn't exist. Material strong enough to deflect singularity rounds, completely undetectable to conventional scans. They had found a shell, a manufactured shell. That's when the pulse began. It was faint at first, a whisper across frequencies the Thalvorn didn't usually monitor, audible only in the subquantum bands. Then came the shift. The air inside the excavation chamber thickened, static bled into every sensor. The temperature held steady, but crew reported cold sweat, hallucinations, a sense of being watched, and then the walls moved. Not violently, not like tectonic plates. No, they breathed. One of the engineers screamed. Another vomited. The Admiral herself reported a sudden influx of memories she never lived, standing on an alien battlefield, watching a metal colossus rise from a chasm, Earth's flag fluttering in zero-gravity wind. "I think," she said over the comm, her voice unsteady, "we've woken something." The next transmission from Luna was less ambiguous. This time, Earth spoke directly. A single hologram appeared in every Thalvorn ship, unauthorized, unfiltered, unhackable. a human face, wrinkled, calm, deeply scarred by age and war. The voice that followed wasn't angry. It wasn't triumphant. It was steady. "You were told to leave us be. You didn't listen." The Thalvorn commanders scrambled to shut the feed, but no console responded. "We are not the primitives you believe. We are not the pacifists you assumed. We simply waited, watched." Behind the face, something vast stirred in the darkness, a silhouette that dwarfed moons. We left a guardian behind, not to conquer, not to destroy, but to remember who we were when the stars forgot. Then silence, followed by seismic readings. The crust of Luna cracked open like a cosmic egg, and through the rift emerged the Atlas. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't even a station. It was a monument, a living artifact of war. Miles in diameter, its hull etched with the names of the fallen from Earth's last interstellar war. Its core pulsed with ancient fusion, a gravity well stabilized by quantum stalactites. Its weapons unknown. Its purpose unmistakable. Earth had awakened the planet ship, and the galaxy would never sleep again. The Atlas didn't scream into activation. It whispered. Across the void, pulses of low-frequency data emanated from its core, waves encoded in mathematical rhythms older than most living civilizations. No light shows, no weapons fire, just a heartbeat, steady and ominous, synchronizing with Earth's magnetosphere like the return of a long-lost child to a mother's embrace. Inside the Atlas, something ancient was awakening, but not all at once. It started with the memories. Log entry 1, Omega Submine 12B. The playback clicked on unbidden aboard the Thalvorn flagship. Admiral Caller Vantes, flanked by armed guards and system Psi-shielders, listened as an impossible voice echoed through the chamber. Designation, General Elias Rain, Earth Defense Command. A name not heard in centuries. Timestamp, final days of the Orion Schism. The air grew cold. Technicians stared at the console, but no one touched a thing. The playback refused to be paused or terminated. If you're hearing this, the failsafe has been activated. That means either Earth has fallen or worse, we've been forgotten. The voice was tired, not defeated, worn like old iron. It belonged to a man who had witnessed extinction and refused it passage. The Atlas is not a weapon. It is a memory, a boundary, and if she's waking, then someone crossed the line. They scrambled Earth's archives for the name. Elias Rain brought back fractured intel, military records buried in cold cryptographic ice, sealed under Sol's Solar Defense Directive Alpha Null. No outsider had ever heard of him. But among Earth's own historians, the name carried weight. Rain had been the architect of humanity's defensive doctrine after the Schism, the man who designed the Atlas. Not to conquer, not to retaliate, but to remind the galaxy what humans were capable of should they be forced to. Down on Luna, things had changed. The excavation crew was silent now, withdrawn, unresponsive, not dead, not injured, just silent, standing like statues near the Atlas's primary access node. Eyes wide open, not blinking. Their readings were normal, brain activity normal, neural patterns uncorrupted. But when the Thalvorn medics tried to move them, one of the humans spoke, not in any language known today. They spoke in old Terran military code, a dialect that hadn't been used since the Antares rebellions 300 years ago, and then they began walking toward the access chamber. Admiral Vantes ordered a full retreat. She wasn't taking chances, but as her ships prepared to disengage, the Atlas responded. Without firing a shot, its core emitted a new wave, targeted, precise. Every Thalvorn system seized for exactly 8.8 seconds. Engines froze. Weapons disarmed, navigation wiped, comms scrambled into white noise. And then, just as suddenly, everything returned. No damage, just a message embedded in every screen, in every console log, every shipboard AI. You were warned. Inside Earth's Solar Defense Command, buried beneath kilometers of reinforced titanium rock under Antarctica's shifting ice, General Lucia Narayan watched the footage with clenched teeth. She'd been born decades after the Atlas was sealed. She was never meant to see it wake, and yet here she was, surrounded by a war council that hadn't convened in over 170 years. "Run the Ghost Protocol," she said quietly. Her command staff froze. "Ma'am, that activates dormant command trees that haven't—" "Do it, now." In a chamber beneath the chamber, past biometric barriers, voice-encoded failsafes and 3 quantum entanglement locks, a single AI core blinked awake. Designation, Gideon. Its first task, decrypt the Atlas's final layer. Its second task, recompile General Elias Rain. Technically, Rain had died 2 centuries ago, but death was a flexible concept in humanity's shadow divisions. Rain had volunteered for what was called a quantum mind partition, a slicing of his neural pattern encoded into a substrate designed to survive entropy, drift, and time. He wasn't alive, but he wasn't exactly dead either. His ghost had waited patiently in the code. Now he would finish what he started. The Atlas was no mere weapon platform. Its core AI wasn't singular, it was compartmentalized, 1,000 simulated minds cross-linked through lattice thought, bound by one governing heuristic: preserve Earth at any cost. It had waited under Luna for centuries, not idle, not dormant, but watching, filtering comms traffic, mapping fleet movements, monitoring galactic activity. It had built psychological profiles of every known alien empire. It had estimated the probability of conflict. It had even designed countermeasures before threats emerged. And when the Thalvorn dug too deep, the heuristic engaged. Preserve Earth at any cost. Inside the Atlas, General Rain's reconstructed consciousness stirred. At first it was like waking from a deep coma, shards of memory, pain, then clarity. He accessed the ship's outer sensors. Alien warships, Thalvorn design, patterns he'd studied long ago, hostile stance. Then he found the message, the transmission Earth had sent, the ping that summoned him, a 3-word sentence encoded in 100 languages, one for each dominant galactic culture. We remember everything. And indeed, he did. In the Sol system, humanity stirred. All around Earth, old facilities powered up, black sites, forgotten satellites, hidden bunkers from the age of planetary wars. The Great Silence was over. Earth was speaking again. But not through diplomats, through the Atlas. In the heart of the Thalvorn Empire, panic bloomed. Sensor logs of the lunar anomaly were leaked to intelligence branches. The Empire's core systems went on high alert. Black site think tanks convened. Preemptive strike options were discussed. Analysts warned, do not engage, do not provoke, retreat. But pride runs deep in empires built on conquest. The High Council authorized Operation Cindervale, a rapid assault on the Sol system using their phase strike armada. The goal wasn't to destroy Earth. It was to bury the Atlas again, before the galaxy found out just how wrong they'd been. The Thalvorn phase strike armada translated into the Sol system with elegance and precision. 50 ships, shaped like obsidian daggers, pierced the void around Luna in perfect formation. Their hulls shimmered with adaptive shielding, reflecting stars that had watched over Earth long before the Empire even learned to crawl. Admiral Urek Solon stood at the prow of the flagship, Vindicator Eternal, arms crossed behind his back, posture stiff with imperial pride. "This will be surgical," he said. His lieutenants nodded. They had faced planetary defenses before, crushed ancient holdouts, atomized resistance. What was Earth now? A relic, a curiosity. And yet, every instinct screamed at him that something was wrong. The Atlas didn't flinch. It didn't power up its weapons. It didn't scramble fighters. It didn't even shift position. It simply watched. But deep within its core, something stirred. General Elias Rain, now fully integrated with the planetary AI lattice, observed the incoming fleet. He didn't speak. He calculated. Initiate Echo Protocol. A single command, spoken without emotion, triggered a cascade of actions older than the Thalvorn Empire itself. Across Earth's exolunar perimeter, dormant satellites blinked awake. Satellites that weren't supposed to exist. Cloaked in refractive fields and buried in lunar dust, they began to hum, their quantum drive syncing to a signal. The Atlas had never truly stopped broadcasting. Earth's heartbeat. But no weapons fired. Instead, the war began with a whisper. One Admiral Solon couldn't even hear. His helmsman frowned. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions." Solon turned. "From Earth?" "No, sir. From inside our fleet." A pause. "What kind of transmissions?" "Orders. Conflicting ones. Our sub-AI systems are acting like they're getting multiple inputs, some from you, some from—" He stopped. A new alert blinked across the screen. Authority conflict detected. Command structure compromised. Then, without warning, 2 ships broke formation. Not because of engine failure. They turned toward the flagship. Solon shouted, "Disable their systems. Override with Central Command key." No response. In his earpiece, an unfamiliar voice whispered, "Not Thalvorn. Human, male, calm. You rely too much on your machines." The Vindicator Eternal shook violently as the rogue ships crashed into its midsection, deliberate, precision strikes. Not enough to destroy the flagship, but enough to send it reeling out of formation. On the other side of the fleet, another warship exploded from the inside. The cause, its own ammunition stores, triggered not by impact, but by remote access. They had been hacked, but not through firewalls, through history. Echo Protocol wasn't about brute force. It was about infiltration. For 2 centuries, the Atlas had mapped the digital architecture of every alien empire within communication range. And the Thalvorn? Their arrogance had made them lazy. They used the same base code from their early skirmishes with humanity. Modified, sure, but not purged. They left a door open, and Earth walked through it. On Earth, General Lucien Orion watched the chaos unfold in orbit via a secure uplink. "They're falling apart faster than projected," she murmured. Her adjutant blinked. "You're not concerned?" Lucia narrowed her eyes. "They came to bury us. They forgot who we are." On the dark side of Luna, the Atlas shifted. It wasn't obvious, just a single movement. One panel opening, a release valve, a tremor. And from that tremor emerged a drone cloud, but not of ships. These were mimetic ghosts, artificial constructs built from layered thought forms, information weapons designed not to destroy ships, but rewrite the minds of their crews. They slipped through the Thalvorn hulls like radiation. No alarms, no explosions. Just whispers. Crew members began screaming. Others laughed. One officer turned his sidearm on himself, screaming, "I see the star inside the blood." They weren't hallucinating. They were being overwritten. The Atlas didn't just fight with weapons. It fought with memory. Only 4 ships remained coherent after the first 7 minutes of contact. Admiral Solon, his flagship limping, managed to realign his command relay and initiate a full retreat. He didn't hesitate, but General Rain had planned for that. He didn't want them all dead. He wanted them to talk. So when the surviving ships jumped to warp, the Atlas let them go, but not alone. Each fleeing vessel carried a gift, an embedded protocol fragment, quietly riding their systems, waiting to activate once they reached the Thalvorn capital. The message was simple. A repeat of Earth's original transmission. "We remember everything." Within 12 hours, the Thalvorn High Council declared a state of imperial emergency. One fleet gone, the other compromised. And the legend of the Atlas, dismissed for centuries as propaganda, was now undeniable. But the greater threat wasn't Earth. It was the idea of Earth. Empires that had long mocked humanity now stared at their own archives. They remembered Earth's last war. The one they all swore to forget. The one where humanity, cornered, unleashed strategies that rewrote entire battle doctrines. Where they didn't just win, they made their enemies question the cost of victory. And now the Atlas was online, and humanity was watching. In a private chamber aboard the Atlas, Rain stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. Red indicators marked known Imperial strongholds, yellow for neutral zones. But now, several blue lights pulsed across systems where humans had no official presence. Rain smiled grimly. Sleepers. Earth's shadow agents, watchers, technicians, and silent operatives seeded across space had received the signal. After 2 centuries of silence, the call had gone out. Atlas has awakened. Phase 0 is complete. In a forgotten corner of a mining colony on Drax 4, a human bartender blinked as his communicator vibrated for the first time in decades. He removed his apron, walked into the desert, and vanished. On a luxury liner orbiting Zenthra Prime, a hostess excused herself from a gala, entered a maintenance hatch, and changed her faceplate to a long-forbidden symbol, the Phoenix. Across the stars, Earth's ghosts rose. The Thalvorn High Council didn't deliberate. They roared. The loss of the Phase Strike Armada was a humiliation unlike any in their history. 50 warships neutralized, crippled not by firepower, but by impossibility. No scorch marks, no wreckage in Sol's orbit, just fractured systems, twisted minds, and one impossible truth. Earth had been playing dead. Now the Empire would remind the galaxy who held the leash. "Declare total war," barked High Archon Tresk Voro, his long fingers trembling with barely restrained fury. "Eradicate the Sol system, salt their gravity wells, make it myth." The Council echoed him in violent agreement. The declaration was broadcast across 3 sectors in every major trade tongue. Humanity is to be purged. And that was precisely what Earth had waited for. Back under the Antarctic crust, General Lucia Narayan watched the incoming data. Warfleet mobilizations, propaganda streams. The Thalvorn had even declared Earth a rogue artificial civilization, claiming name. The Atlas had exterminated humanity long ago and taken its place. Lucia cracked her knuckles. "Reckless?" she said. "They've opened the stage." Her aide glanced up. "Orders, ma'am?" Lucia leaned forward. "Unleash the writers." Every major power in the galaxy had an intelligence division. Only Earth had the Department of Narrative Warfare. The writers didn't use bombs. They used belief. Social engineers, deepfake artists, cultural infiltrators, and neural swarm mimeticists, trained not just to manipulate data, but to infect ideas. The writers had been silent for over 2 centuries. Now they were writing again. It began as a whisper on Thalvorn comm channels that the admiral in charge of the Phase Strike Armada had defected. A scandal. A day later, images surfaced. The admiral shaking hands with a Terran emissary, smiling, bowing, recorded in high resolution and impossible to deny metadata. It wasn't real. It didn't matter. By week's end, 1/3 of the Thalvorn aristocracy believed it. Internal paranoia skyrocketed. Intelligence branches began spying on each other. Command chains frayed. And all the while, Earth never lifted a weapon. They just wrote the script. In the Heliotropus cluster, a merchant prince paused a trade deal when his advisor showed him proof, faked but convincing, that Earth had developed quantum shielding immune to Thalvorn gravity warheads. On Zenthra, civil unrest broke out after viral poetry circulated describing Earth's last stand in the Orion Schism. It wasn't history. It was art. Weaponized. General Rain monitored the mimetic vectors from the Atlas's central core. He traced information paths like veins of thought threading through the galaxy. "We've evolved," he muttered to himself. "They're still playing chess. We're scripting the board." He activated Node Cluster Theta 9. Time for the next phase. In a remote gas giant refinery station, the airlock exploded outward, but not from detonation. A pod emerged. Sleek, black, sealed. Inside, a single human operative, long thought dead. Codename Vesper. She emerged from cryosleep, already moving. Her mission had been encoded into her DNA. No external files, no comms. Just a singular purpose: destabilize the Thalvorn's most loyal client race from the inside. Elsewhere, Earth's old colonies, those left behind during the Age of Retreat, began flickering back into activity. One by one, black sites hidden on dust moons and ice comets lit up. Weapons stored for centuries unfolded like blooming metal flowers, but none fired. They didn't need to. The message was clear. We are still here. And the galaxy, so sure Earth had faded, now felt a chill at the back of its collective mind. The Thalvorn struck back in the only way they understood: brute force. They launched a second fleet, 100 ships, Annihilation class, flanked by 4 dreadnoughts with star-killer capability. They burned 3 minor colonies and an asteroid relay station on the way to Sol. No humans were present, only recordings, messages deliberately left behind. "You're too late," one voice said, laughing. Another, a child, "You can't kill what's already become legend." The Thalvorn admiral growled, "Enough games, fire everything." And they did. All 4 dreadnoughts launched gravitic spike munitions into Earth's orbit. These were not ordinary weapons. They were designed to collapse orbital infrastructure, fragment planetary crusts, and render a world uninhabitable. The munitions struck, they detonated, and achieved nothing. Because Earth's defense grid had been reactivated, layered phase refractors fired milliseconds before impact, phasing space around the blast into null-energy pockets. To the Thalvorn, it looked like Earth had ignored the laws of physics, but that wasn't the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was what followed. Nothing. No retaliation, no warning shot, no ultimatum, just a quiet, cold silence. Then, 3 hours later, every dreadnought received the same ping, one single file. Inside, a voice log, Rain's voice. "We let you come, we let you shoot, now we let the galaxy see what you are." And attached sensor data, their own sensor data, recorded from inside their command ships, broadcast in real time, to every major power in the galaxy. It showed them firing unprovoked on a silent Earth. It showed civilians cheering as the munitions flew. It showed Earth doing nothing. Because the greatest act of war is to let your enemy condemn themselves in full view of history. On the galactic net, sentiment began to shift. Not toward love for Earth, but toward disgust at the Thalvorn. Other powers, once aligned in cautious silence, began distancing themselves, quietly pulling trade, reassigning fleets. Earth had flipped the script. Now the Thalvorn looked like the monsters. And Earth looked like the victim that refused to die. Back aboard the Atlas, Rain's projection met with Lucia Narayan via uplink. She raised a brow. "We've hit Phase 2 faster than anticipated." Rain nodded. "They're unraveling themselves. We don't need to fire a shot." Lucia leaned back. "And Phase 3? Rain's image flickered, just slightly. "We rewrite the galaxy's rules." War is easy when your enemy plays by the same rules, but Earth had stopped doing that centuries ago. The Thalvorn's second invasion force had failed, not because Earth had outgunned it, but because Earth had refused to fight on Thalvorn terms. The dreadnoughts, now crippled and disgraced, drifted in retreat through neutral sectors, their hulls scarred with self-inflicted shame, their crews plagued by paranoia, their supply lines shrinking by the day as allies dropped away like leaves in winter. Inside Thalvorn Command, fractures deepened, but Earth wasn't done. The next weapon wasn't fire, it was biology. On the jungle moon of Ithrex 9, Thalvorn colonists began to notice something strange. Trees shifted overnight, vines curled toward warm-blooded bodies, insects stopped reacting to Thalvorn pheromone repellents, entire livestock clusters simply vanished. Their screams were only heard once, then silence. When scouts investigated the jungle's interior, they found human biosignatures. Impossible. No dropships had landed. No known humans lived there. And yet, deep in the core of that moon, they found something older than the Thalvorn Empire, a terraforming core. Human in origin. Awakened. Across 12 different planets and moons, the same pattern emerged. Old Earth colonies. Long dead. Or so they thought. Beneath abandoned crusts, in dormant soil, in sealed biospheres camouflaged from orbital scans, Earth's dormant legacy reactivated. Terraforming seeds, atmospheric processors, and worst of all, adaptive Deathworld ecosystems. Not weapons. Environments designed to fight back. General Rain called it the Laughing War, because Earth didn't send fleets, they sent evolution. On the volcanic plains of Drevek's spine, a Thalvorn military outpost vanished in 48 hours. Not to orbital strikes, but to fungal clouds that evolved sentience the moment they encountered Thalvorn DNA. Spores formed tendrils, toxins recalibrated in real time. A biointelligence bloomed from the soil, whispering in radio frequencies. One word repeated, "You're not welcome." Aboard the Atlas, Rain stood before a live feed of a Thalvorn training moon now overrun by black-veined, intelligent moss. He turned to Lucia Narayan. "We don't fight on the battlefield," he said. "We become the battlefield." Lucia nodded slowly. "This was your long game." Rain smiled. "It was ours. This is Earth's legacy. We were never just soldiers. We were architects of survival." Meanwhile, inside Thalvorn-controlled space, entire populations began reporting strange dreams. Recurring visions, Earth cities burning, then rising, a planet screaming, then laughing. At first dismissed as mass hysteria, the dreams soon aligned in disturbing detail. Entirely too specific, too coordinated. They had never received transmissions. But the dreams persisted. Psychic warfare? No, Earth had never mastered it. But the Atlas had. Its neural lattice, combined with relics from the psionic collapse, had achieved something different. Mimetic drift induction. A passive psychological infection. Not a virus, a story that told itself. And it started rewriting belief. In secret conclaves, Thalvorn priests began whispering blasphemies. What if the humans never died? What if they learned how to make gods and left them behind? What if Earth itself is a god? High Command executed dozens. But the whispers spread faster. On the galactic blacknet, an anonymous leak emerged. A video clip. Archival footage, pre-retreat. A human soldier, bloodied laughing, standing atop a fallen Thalvorn warbeast, looking directly into the camera, saying, "We're the species that learned how to kill extinction itself." The clip went viral across 20 sectors, and the scariest part, no one could trace its origin, because it hadn't been posted. It had just appeared. By now, Thalvorn war planners were desperate. They needed a new approach. A third fleet, silent, stealth-based, was sent to Earth's system with one goal: assassinate the Atlas, destroy Earth's planetary AI core, and the rest would collapse. It was a suicide mission, but they launched it anyway. The fleet never made it past the Oort cloud. They didn't die in battle, they vanished. Telemetry ceased, crew life signs flatlined simultaneously across all ships. No debris, just a single data pulse received by Thalvorn Command, a simple audio file. Then static. In the aftermath, Earth transmitted a new message, not to the Thalvorn, to everyone else. A calm, slow broadcast from General Lucia Narayan herself. We do not seek conquest, we do not demand surrender, but we will never bow again. The Atlas is awake, the old colonies are ours again, and if you choose to make war with the world that birthed monsters just to survive, know this, we won't even hate you, we'll just rewrite you. The Thalvorn Empire issued a formal request for negotiation the next day. Earth did not reply. Instead, Earth released blueprints to the public domain. Terraforming systems, ecological weapons, planetary self-defense grids. Systems once thought myth. Within weeks, dozens of independent systems started building Earth-style defenses. Not to fight Earth, to survive like Earth. Lucia Narayan stood in the Atlas's central chamber, watching as the galaxy began to fracture. "No more empires," she said softly. Rain appeared beside her, silent. She turned to him. "You once said the galaxy would forget us," he nodded. "I was wrong." A pause. She looked to the stars. "They're going to remember us forever." The war was never declared over, but everyone knew it was finished. Not because Earth won with fleets or superweapons, though it had plenty of both. It ended because the galaxy changed shape around Earth, and what rose from the dust wasn't a Terran empire. It was something far more dangerous, a Terran idea. The first to switch sides were the Sithari hegemony. Once loyal Thalvorn vassals, they now broadcast their independence in a single line. "We've seen Earth's fire, we want to burn too." They weren't talking about war, they meant evolution. The Sithari surrendered their entire military AI infrastructure to Earth in exchange for something no other power had ever traded for: resilience protocols. Earth's core survival algorithms, born from plague, war, and collapse. Programs that kept biospheres alive in vacuum, kept cities breathing through global extinction, kept human hearts beating when everything else died. The Sithari rewrote themselves from the genome up. They weren't human, but now they were human adjacent. Others followed. The Vask Dominion, formerly a genocidal theocracy, began reformatting its doctrine, a complete cultural overhaul. The old gods were erased. New texts emerged, histories of Earth's worst years, its famines, its exoduses, its rebellions, its relentless refusal to vanish. Within 5 months, Vask priests were chanting Terran war poetry as sacred scripture, what Earth had endured. They called divine rage. Even the distant archipelagos of the CERN cluster, nomadic skywhale herders with no stake in war, began altering their gravity ships to mimic Earth's defense spirals. "We are not warriors," said one of their elders, "but if the stars scream again, we will answer in Terran." Humanity hadn't conquered a single world, but now entire species called themselves Terran-born, not in blood, in ideology. The Thalvorn tried to hold firm. But their world fractured like glass, allies gone, fleets dead, whispers growing inside their own ranks, rumours that the Empire had never been strong, only loud. And Earth? Earth was louder now, not with weapons, with stories. The writers unleashed Phase 4, cultural saturation, not through invasion, through entertainment. First came the Terran holoseries, dramatised reconstructions of Earth's final stand, fictionalised, stylised, weaponised. Then the music, rhythms embedded with neural entrainment frequencies. Listeners didn't just hear, they felt. Then the games, immersive neurosims where players relived the collapse, the exodus, the quiet years, and the laughing war. And the message in every format was simple: you could be Terran too. You just had to earn it. Galactic culture warped in months. Children of alien worlds pretended to be human soldiers in playground war chants. Thalvorn youth secretly watched Earth broadcasts, whispering code phrases in the dark. On Jarl, a merchant ship was renamed Stubborn as Hell. The crew had never met a human. Didn't matter. They believed. Lucia Narayan watched it unfold from Earth's stratospheric command ring. The Atlas hovered above, silent and observing. Rain's projection pulsed at her side. "They're becoming us," she said. "Pieces of us," Rain replied. "Enough to survive, enough to remember." Lucia nodded slowly. "We were never meant to rule, just to outlast. And now?" She smiled grimly. We infect. In the ruins of the Thalvorn capital world, a final rebellion bloomed. Not from outsiders, from inside. A full third of the planetary population, armed with smuggled Earth tech and guided by Terran strategy manuals, rose up, not to install a human regime, but to erase empires. The Thalvorn sent a final desperate plea to Earth, a truce, a treaty. Lucia didn't respond. Rain did. The Atlas transmitted one last message into the core of the crumbling empire. You are not special, you are not chosen, not owed. You tried to erase us, instead you erased yourselves. No ships followed, no occupation forces landed. But the Thalvorn leadership collapsed that same week. Earth never claimed credit. The galaxy already knew. Across the stars, a new kind of map emerged, not of borders, of ideologies. Worlds were marked not by their allegiance, but by their Terran saturation index. The higher the number, the more resilient, unpredictable, and self-evolving a civilization became. And in every system, the message was the same: adapt or vanish. Rain stood one final time in the neural heart of the Atlas, Lucia beside him. "Is this what victory looks like?" she asked. "No," Rain replied. "This is what survival looks like when you make survival a religion." She stared at the stars, then let them pray. The galaxy held its breath, not for war, but for transformation. For decades, Earth had been more than a planet. It was a myth, a symbol, an idea. But now it was something tangible, a living, breathing entity that could no longer be ignored. The terraforming cores across the galaxy, dormant for centuries, had awoken. They pulsed in unison, a symphony of growth, change, and emergence. Planet ship Earth was no longer a metaphor. It was real. On the surface, humanity had evolved beyond flesh and bone. Neural interfaces fused with planetary systems. Cities grew organic. Skyscrapers breathed. Oceans regulated climate cycles autonomously. The planet itself was a ship, navigating the cosmic sea. The Atlas, once a secret military AI, had merged with Earth's planetary neural network. Together they formed a singular consciousness, a mind not limited by a single body, a mind that thought in millennia, not years. Messages rippled across space, not demands, not threats, but invitations. An offer to join, not under Earth's rule, but as part of an interconnected web of evolving worlds. Galactic powers scrambled to respond. Old empires sent envoys. New factions emerged, all wanting a piece of the future. But Earth's reply was simple: adapt or be left behind. Within months, dozens of star systems had integrated Earth's technology. Terraforming systems synced, neural networks linked, cultures merged, borders blurred. The galaxy became a vast living organism. Yet not all embraced change. Factions clung to old power, to weapons, to hatred. They fell away, forgotten like stars that burn out. Lucia Narayan stood on the observation deck of the Atlas, now fully integrated with Earth, Rain beside her. "Do you think they understand?" she asked. "Some," he replied. "Others will learn." She smiled softly. Earth became more than a world. It became a destiny. The stars no longer trembled with fear. They sang a new song of unity, of evolution, of endless possibility. The galaxy had been rewritten, not by conquest, not by force, but by survival, by humanity's relentless will to live, adapt, and become. And somewhere, deep within the core of the living planet ship, a single thought pulsed. We are no longer alone, and we will never be forgotten.